Hi everyone, welcome. Today's video we are going to talk about how we spent our day at Hollywood Studios without using multipass. Now, let me give you a quick introduction if you're new here. My name is Jonna, and here at Blue Coach Travel we talk about ocean cruising and all things Disney. If that sounds like something interesting to you, make sure you hit that subscribe and the bell notification so you get notified anytime we put up a new video. Now, like I said, we are talking about how we spent our day at Hollywood Studios. If you haven't heard of or seen our last videos, this is a vacation where we spent a couple of days at Disney before we went on our very first ever Royal Caribbean cruise. So I wanted to spend at least one day in the parks, and because we were staying close to the Hollywood Studios Epcot area, I decided to spend the day at Hollywood Studios. Now, this park used to be a park that it really wasn't our favorite, but because of all the things Disney has done with it in the past, 5 years or so, it really has, actually a little bit more than that, it really has become one of our favorite parks. They added Galaxy's Edge, they added the Toy Story Land to some already fun attractions on Sunset Boulevard, like the rocking roller coaster and the Tower of Terror. So another good thing about this park is it's not quite as spread out as like Epcot is. So it definitely is one where you can get around pretty easily. If you need to go from one area of the park to the other area of the park, it's pretty easy to do because it's not so spread out. But we were actually staying at Coronado Springs, and the ways to get to Hollywood Studios from Coronado Springs is by bus. So, and one of the benefits of staying at a Disney resort is that you can, you get early access to the parks. Now, we started our journey pretty early in the morning. So like I said, the park opens at 8:30, but you don't want to get there at 8:30. You want to try to get there a little sooner. Now, buses will run about 45 minutes to an hour before the park opens. So we got up early, got ready. We left our room about 20 after 7 and headed over to the bus stop. And luckily, we did not have to wait very long at all. Our first bus came a little bit before 7:30, and it was pretty empty. There was really just my husband and I, so he had lots of room to move around to different locations, and we had a pretty empty bus, and it was also a pretty quick trip to Hollywood Studios. Now, a lot of times with the buses, especially on the bigger resorts, you will have a couple of stops that you'll make, and we did have those. But even with those couple of stops within the resort, we were able to get to Hollywood Studios pretty quickly. We were there, taking a look at my notes. We were there, let's see, we arrived at 7:44 was the actual time that we arrived. So it was about 15 minutes to take those couple of stops, and then the drive to Hollywood Studios. Like I said, Coronado Springs is really close, so it wasn't long of a drive. So when you take the bus, you get dropped off at the bus stop areas. There is a little bit of a walk to take you to the front of Hollywood Studios where you're going to get in. After a short 5-minute walk, we were waiting to get into Hollywood Studios. It was about 10 till 8 at that point. And, while we were there, we took that opportunity I had packed some snack bars and had some water. So we had just a little breakfast there. We had already had our coffee in the room. So, we were good to go. By the time that we got done doing that and just waited for a few more minutes, they did actually let us in to the park just a little bit early. So it was about a little after 8:15 when we were able to get into the park, when you go into the front area. Now, while we were waiting, one of the things that I was doing, and before we even went to the park, was kind of think of a strategy. Where did I want to go first to try to utilize the most out of that early entry time and those shorter wait times? So I had pretty much 3 big hitter options: Rise of the Resistance, Slinky Dog, or Rock and Roller Coaster. 3 different areas of the park. Now, Rise and Slinky Dog are pretty close together. They are in adjoining areas of the park, but the Rock and Roller Coaster is all the way on the other side of the park. So as we were walking in, there were cast members that were letting us know if there was any attraction that wasn't open during the early morning hours. Sometimes that can happen. You have that extra half an hour, but sometimes not all attractions are open and ready to go, and that can change for the day. Now, the day that we were there was Labor Day weekend. It was Sunday of Labor Day weekend, so it was a little bit busier than usually September would be, because it is a holiday. And anytime there's a holiday, it tends to be a little bit busier because people are going for the same reason we did, is because it's a shorter week. We have to take less time off of work, that type of thing. Plus, a lot of the locals around the area will be going because, they don't have to go to work. So when we first walked in, we heard that the Rock and Roller Coaster was not open yet. So we walked a little further and found out that Rise of the Resistance wasn't going yet. That ride can often go down. So even if you can't get it done during the early morning time period, you definitely want to try to get that ride, go to that ride before, in the morning time at some point, because like I said, it will go down sometimes. And so you don't want to wait. You don't want to keep that into the last minute if you want to make sure that you ride it. And I think that one is definitely a must do. So at that point, I was, we either would wait in line at one of the attractions that wasn't open, or try to hit an attraction that was open that we would need to wait for. So at first, I thought maybe we would stand in line for Slinky Dog Dash until I saw the line, and it was very long. So we ended up going to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad, because that one can also be very, very busy as well, and that will have a high wait time, a lot of times over an hour during the day. So we decided to go on that ride. The one mistake that I made there was not making that decision a little sooner, because that ride ended up being a 45-minute wait, where if I would have made that decision when we were coming in and heard that all of these other attractions were being delayed, we would have had less of a wait time, probably at least by 10 minutes to be, or 15 minutes to be at least half an hour. One thing to keep in mind is a lot of that wait is going to be outside. Now, one thing that Disney does have is fans. It's not incredibly hot, but it is one thing to consider is that you will be waiting a lot of that time outside. When you do get inside, that's when the wait starts getting a little bit shorter and you have visually things to look at. They have a cute little pre-show where you will go into a room, they'll show this cute little show and kind of get you in the mood for the ride. Then once you get out of there, you're really basically in that queue to kind of start getting loaded up to get on the ride. And I won't give away too much of the ride, but it is something that's really, really cute. And it's one of the trackless attractions that Disney has started doing in the last, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years. And which makes it, kind of fun where you can move around kind of seamlessly. And there's one area that you even get to dance with Daisy. So it is a fun ride. Very cute. And you just come out of that ride thinking, that was just adorable. So after we got out of Mickey and Minnie's, it was really at that point where the park was open. So that's really when you need to start using your My Disney Experience app to be looking at the wait times. And that's exactly what I did. I looked to see where the wait times were. Now, Slinky Dog was just, the wait was still very, very long. And so I saw that there was about a 20-minute wait for Tower of Terror. So we did make our way over to Sunset Avenue. And right before you get on the attraction, there's this cute little stop sign. I just thought it was really cute, adorable. I'll insert the picture here. And but that is one thing about Disney, is to make sure to keep your eyes open, because you never know what little something extra or little extra touch that you're going to see. So make sure to look around and look at your surroundings. Don't just look at your phone and don't just be super focused on where you're going. You will get there for sure. So we approached Tower of Terror, and the queues for the attractions are often really fun to look at. This one, a lot of the queue is outside again, and it's just really very, very pretty. Lots of different things to look at. Once you get inside, they really do a lot of attention to detail. So make sure to take your time, take a look around as you're, waiting for your turn to get on the attraction. And then this attraction, like I said, the wait time was 20 minutes. That's what was posted in the app. We waited 18 minutes, so really pretty close. Sometimes the wait times can be a lot different, but this one was pretty close. Now, if I see in the app anything that's like 30 minutes or less, it's definitely one that you want to hop into, because hopefully that wait time will be a little bit less, and maybe you will only be waiting 15 to 20 minutes. So this attraction I hadn't ridden in years, because if you don't know what it is, it's basically you're going into this elevator, and it's based around the Twilight Zone, and it has the whole theme of the hotel and the elevator stopping and all of that, but it is a free-form drop. And what I thought I found interesting was that Disney had originally wanted to make this a working hotel where guests would actually stay in, but they decided not to, because they thought that people screaming all day would probably interrupt with being able to comfortably stay in a hotel room. So I think that was probably a wise decision. After leaving the Tower of Terror, then had to make a decision, what is going to be our next ride to go on. And we're still in those early morning hours. So even though the park is open, the wait times can still be a little bit less in the morning than they will be later in the afternoon. And that's why we chose to come during that early morning hours, since we didn't have the multi-pass. We didn't want to wait in too long of lines. So you either come early, come late, or get that multi-pass really is the options that you want to do. And if you come late, you risk the lines still being long, and you risk rides going down and you not being able to ride them. So that's why I chose the early morning hours instead. So when we were done with Tower of Terror, really I wanted to get through Rise of the Resistance. That is, I think, the best ride at Hollywood Studios. And so I wanted to make sure that we got on that and didn't have to wait for an hour and a half, 2 hours, anything like that. Actually, I wouldn't have done that, but I didn't want to have a really long wait time. And the wait time in the app said 50 minutes. So I thought, well, let's risk it and see if maybe it's a little bit less than 50 minutes. And so we made our way over to Rise of the Resistance. Now, we are walking from one side of the park to the other, which I wouldn't normally recommend doing because that is just a lot of walking. Even though it's a small park, it is not one thing that you want to do, to go back and forth from one side to the other. But wanted to try to get those lower wait times. So I did this one long trek over the length of the park. Now, on the way, this is going to seem random, but there will be a reason why I said this. On the way, I did stop at the restroom, and I thought I saw the most unusual thing that you just don't ever see anymore, which is a payphone. I thought that was interesting. So I took a picture of it, inserted it here. I think there's younger folks these days that probably wouldn't even know what a payphone is. So anyway, walked over to the other side of the park and got in line for Rise of the Resistance. And, just walking over there, we did get to see a few things. So as we were walking by, we did get to see some characters that were doing some meet and greets. We saw Donald and Daisy. Now, you can find these character meet and greets in the My Disney Experience app. So if that's something that's important to you and important to your family, make sure that you check out the app so you know where those meet and greet opportunities are. They definitely are a fun way to spend a day, is to be able to get up close and personal with characters and get that interaction. There is another way to get those character meet and greets where it's more one-on-one, less waiting, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So as we go through the park and we walk into Galaxy's Edge, one of the very first attractions, depending on which way you're coming from, is Rise of the Resistance. And again, the queue areas are really part of the attraction. You're not just waiting in line and see, concrete and the chains that are putting you in that little snake area. But Disney does a really good job of theming the area to what it is supposed to be, so you actually feel like you're in that Star Wars-esque environment. And there is some of the queue that is outside. And at this point, it's starting to get more into the daytime. It was starting to get hot. So I did pull out my portable fan and was very, very happy that I packed that and put that in my park bag. And as we got inside, this queue area took a little bit more time inside as well. I would say we waited for about 36 minutes. It was 36 minutes was actually what I timed. And the posted wait time was 50 minutes. So it was a little bit less. And I would say probably 50-50 of that time was inside versus outside. So once we got inside, the theming continued, and we got to see different props and some really cool different things throughout the area. And make sure to look down too, because the theming doesn't stop with just what's around you, but what's even on the floor. So take a look at that when you're in line waiting for your attraction. And then, just like Tower of Terror and Mickey and Minnie's, there is a pre-show, and so you get to see some of the characters that are in the Star Wars movies. One of the best things to see, in my opinion. I think it's the most, I don't know how to explain it, but it's one of the coolest areas that you'll go through, and that's where you see all the stormtroopers lined up. I don't know about you guys. I grew up watching Star Wars, have been a Star Wars fan since I was a little girl and saw the very first Star Wars movie. And the stormtroopers just kind of gave me a chill. It's like, of course they're not real, but it looks very realistic. And then the cast members there are dressed in Star Wars attire, and even the way they speak to everybody, it's like they're always in character. So it's definitely something really cool to see. And I won't go into a lot of what the ride is itself, because it's something that you need to see, but just know that it's in one of those trackless vehicles again, and so it can move around very easily and go in different directions, which it does. So keep that in mind if that's something that you're sensitive to. And it is very, very, very Star Wars themed. You are actually in the action. So like I said, it's very cool. It is the best, in my opinion, the best attraction at Hollywood Studios. Now, part of the planning process was making those dining reservations. I wanted to have breakfast. We really had brunch because of the time of day it was, at Topolino's Terrace. Now, Topolino's Terrace is not at Hollywood Studios. It's actually at one of the resorts that's nearby. It's at the Riviera Resort. And for breakfast, you do get to dine with the characters. So that is one way to be able to have that character interaction, that meet and greet, more on a one-on-one basis, and not having to wait in line, because you're sitting and enjoying your breakfast while the characters are coming around and greeting you. Also, one of the great things about eating at Topolino's Terrace is, since it's at the Riviera, it is on the Skyliner route to from Hollywood Studios. And so it was a very quick trip. We didn't have to walk anywhere. We didn't have to get on a bus and transfer somewhere else. It was very, very easy. And the Skyliner is almost like a ride within itself. And it only took us about 8 minutes to get from Hollywood Studios to Riviera. And once we got to Riviera, we were there a little bit early, so we did take some time to kind of look around the resort. It's very pretty. It's one of the newer resorts. It is what's called a DVC resort, Disney Vacation Club. Now, Disney Vacation Club is basically their version of a timeshare. But you do not have to be a Disney Vacation Club member to stay at the Riviera. You can pay for it just like you would any other Disney resort. And it is, like I said, it's one of the newer ones. I believe it opened in 2019. So, and it's based off of the French Riviera. It's a very, very beautiful resort. And so we took some time just to kind of look around, and then went in to check in for our reservation. Now, one thing at Topolino's Terrace, it is basically a prefix price. So you pay one price and then you get to choose your entree from there. And for breakfast, they also bring out a pastry. I don't want to say plate because it's not a plate. It's like a little bucket. So now, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I do have to eat gluten-free. I have been on a gluten-free diet for the past 12 years, not by choice, but out of necessity. And Disney does a fabulous job accommodating that. So back when I made the reservation 60 days in advance, it was actually my birthday. 60 days in advance, I was able to put in there that I do have a food allergy. So the server knew that as they were coming to our table. They knew that I needed that allergy-friendly menu, and they made sure to know what allergen I was what I had the allergy for, and made sure that anything that I had was gluten-free. So as far as the pastries, of course, usually if any of you are gluten-free, you don't usually get pastries, but and if you do, they're probably not very good. That is not the case here. So my husband got basically a bucket with different pastries in it, and then it had some sauces to go along with it. But I got my own as well, and the pastries were really, really good. I especially really liked, it was like kind of a glazed donut. From what I remember, it tasted very much like a real glazed donut, and the muffin was very good as well. But it was just so nice to not only get that gluten-free pastry, but it to actually taste good. And just a side note here, we did eat at Chef Mickey's on our last trip, and the gluten-free pastries were pretty similar, so if they weren't exactly the same. So just know that you can get that at other different places too if you have that allergy. So, like I said, we did get to meet the characters. We got to meet Daisy and Mickey and Minnie and Donald. So it was very fun to have that interaction with the characters and to have a really nice meal as well. I'll put the menu in here. This is my allergy-friendly menu of what I got to choose from. I did choose the steak and eggs, and it was a very delicious meal. And not only did we get to have a good meal, get to meet the characters, but like I said, it was really starting to get very warm. So it was nice to have the break in the air conditioning, sit down, not be on our feet anymore, and just relax. Another benefit of Topolino's Terrace is the terrace. So there is an area where you can go outside, and our server did let us know that it's there and make sure to check it out. Now, it was starting to get early afternoon, so it was very, very bright and hot. It probably wasn't a very comfortable time to be hanging out there. But in the evening, this is a really good place to go. And if you're lucky enough to be there during fireworks, you can see the Hollywood Studios and or Epcot fireworks. Now, after our early morning and that really delicious breakfast, brunch, we were really ready for nap time. So we did decide to go back to the resort. And like I said, we had a bus stop that was close to us, and lucky us, it was the first stop on the way back from the park. So we had just a short walk up to our room, and we did decide to take a nap. My husband stayed in the room. I decided to go to the pool. We had a quiet pool that was close to us. So I brought my Kindle and went to the pool, read, and whenever I read, it always puts me to sleep. So I did take a little bit of a nap. Now, luckily, I had my sunscreen and SPF 50, so I did not get sunburn while I was out there, but I did take a nice little nap. And then we got ready to go back out to the park again. Now, one thing I did, because I knew it was going to be very, very warm, is I did plan on having an outfit change, which I think really helped. So not only did I not have to get back into the clothes that I've been wearing all morning and kind of getting all sweaty in, I had a nice fresh outfit to wear after, going to the pool. So we made our way back to Hollywood Studios. As we were leaving the resort, it started to downpour, which does happen in Florida, especially this time of year. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is a rain shower can come out of nowhere. There can be no rain in the forecast, but it can still rain. And so that's something you want to keep in mind, and make sure to bring your rain gear. I bring a packable rain jacket that I'm able to keep in my park bag. You can also bring a small umbrella, or a lot of people will bring ponchos. So whatever your rain gear of choice is, just make sure that you have something with you. My husband did not take my advice, and he was looking at me very jealous as I was putting my rain jacket on and being protected from the rain, and he was not. So make sure to bring your rain gear. So the rain didn't last too long, but there was a little bit of thunder and lightning in the distance. So one thing that I wanted to get back for was to go see this, which is the Indiana Jones show. And unfortunately, that show is outside. So if there is that inclement weather, it does get canceled. Now, usually the good thing is there's other times that it's scheduled throughout the day. Again, I'm going to plug the My Disney Experience app, because that's how you know when they are scheduled. But unfortunately, this was the last one for the day. So instead of going to see that show, we ended up going to see this one, which is Frozen, and it is definitely a must-do. Even if you are not a Frozen fan, this is a must-do show. And I was a little bummed because I really wanted to see Indiana Jones. I hadn't seen it in many years, and I wanted to go to that one. But as soon as the show started, I was like, this is just as good. So, and I really appreciated that we took the time and got to watch this show. It's inside, so while it was raining outside, we were nice and dry inside and got to see a lovely show. Now, you're thinking, well, it's just, they're retelling the story of Frozen that we've all seen, but it's the actors that kind of host the show that really make the show a must-do. So make sure on your Hollywood Studios days to check your My Disney Experience app and to catch one of those shows. It is definitely a must-do. Now, by the time that we got out of the show, the rain had pretty much gone to more of just a sprinkle. So we were off to try to ride a few more attractions, and we decided to go to the right and to go back to Galaxy's Edge. Now, the ride the Star Wars theme ride that's kind of on the way. It's outside of Galaxy's Edge because it's been there since before that area of the park had even been built. So that one is usually a very short wait time, and it definitely was at this point. It was 5 minutes, so we decided to just hop on. And it is a fun ride. One time when we had gone, I won't give away everything that's on the ride, but I will tell you this. They do point out a person in the ride to be the person from the Resistance. And one time my granddaughter did get pointed out in that, and she thought that was so cool. And that pretty much made her day and solidified that Hollywood Studios is her favorite park. So after that, we went into Galaxy's Edge, and this is one thing that you want to look around as well. I mean, I've said that a few times during this video is, to take your time and to look around. This is a very cool part of the park. A lot of detail is put into this, a lot of different areas that they're not even really sure where they are until you go exploring. So make sure to take the time to explore. There's also some other options to do here. I think one of the most favorite or popular things to do is to make a lightsaber. My granddaughter is a huge Star Wars fan, and she got to do that during one of our past trips, and it was definitely one of the highlights of that particular trip. Now that we're in Galaxy's Edge, we had ridden rides, we had done Star Tours, so there was just one ride left, which is the Millennium Falcon. And so we decided to take a trip in the famous vehicle now, or starship. Now, this is something that is very interactive. Also, you want to keep in mind that this ride is a little bit jerky. So if that's something that might bother you, this might not be something you want to ride. But if you are a Star Wars fan and can handle that, it's definitely something that you want to go on. But keep in mind that you are going to have a job to do. So there's 3 different jobs, and each of those jobs have different responsibilities. So, but it's part of the fun. Now, the posted wait time for this was 30 minutes, and we waited 26 minutes. So it was just about correct with that wait time. When you get up to the area where you're going to actually get on the ride, you get to see what you see in the films of the inside of the ship. It's very cool. At this point, we were starting to get a little hungry, so we decided to grab something to eat. And for me, like I said, I do have to eat gluten-free, and it's very easy to do if you're eating at a sit-down restaurant, but it's also easy to do when you're at a quick service restaurant as well. And one of my favorites is Woody's Lunchbox. So that's where we decided to go. Now at this point, it was this weird type of rain where the sun was out, but it was still kind of drizzling a little bit. Now the downside to Woody's Lunchbox is where you're sitting is outside, and it's very limited. So you really do have to stalk people to be able to get a seat. Now, good thing or bad thing, having the gluten-free, they do make sure to make that separately. And so it does take a little bit longer. So my husband sat and waited for my meal to be done, which is maybe about 10 minutes. It really isn't a long time. But while he was doing that, I was stocking out a table. I first got a table that was still had no covering. It was outside, no covering. And then we were able to find someone that had moved, and we were able to get under a little umbrella, which was nicer because our food was getting sprinkled on, so at least we got to eat dry food for most of the meal. But again, something to keep in mind. Now, we could have gone somewhere else, Backlot Express is another one of my favorites, and it is inside. So it really should have been what we should have gone with, but Woody's Lunchbox is usually one that I like. Now this one was a little soggy, so it wasn't the best I'd ever had there, but again, it's one of my favorites, and I get to have a gluten-free sandwich with gluten-free bread, which any of you who are gluten-free and have to eat and go to eat out know that doesn't always happen. So it's always a treat, I think, when I get to eat a sandwich like it's meant to be. Now at this point, there was really one main attraction that we hadn't gone on yet. Well, there was two actually, but one that we really wanted to try to get on because it had been down the last time we were there. So it was one that we wanted to ride. We hadn't ridden it in a while, which is the Rock and Roller Coaster. Now, there was one other thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to hit the Fantasmic show. So if you're not aware, Fantasmic is one of the nighttime kind of firework shows. They do have fireworks that go off. It is much more than that too. There's a whole show with lights, so it does have to be at night. So according to the My Disney Experience app, the wait time for the Rock and Roller Coaster was going to be about an hour, and not something that I was crazy about doing, but like I said, we were getting towards the end of our day, and it's one ride that we hadn't ridden in a while and wanted to ride, so we were going to risk it and hope that it wasn't an hour. And as we were standing in the line, and again, I wanted to hit that Fantasmic show, so as we were waiting in line, it just wasn't moving very quickly. So I made the decision to get out of the line so that we can hit Fantasmic and not be rushing there, be able to be there a little bit early so we could get a seat, that type of thing. So instead, we decided to do a little shopping and went through some of the shops that are right there on the Sunset Boulevard. And we hit the end of it and decided to grab Starbucks. We grabbed our Starbucks and then went right behind the building in this little courtyard area. It's actually starting to become a tradition for us. Is the last few times that we've gone, we end up getting Starbucks at some point during the day and drinking it in this little courtyard area. It's just a nice place to sit, get off your feet for a little bit, enjoy your coffee, and just kind of people watch for a little while. So we did that while we were waiting to go to Fantasmic. We did go a little bit early. I want to say it was probably about somewhere between a half hour and 15 minutes, somewhere in there. And it really did fill up very quickly. And when we first got there, it seemed pretty empty. And I thought, oh, well, it's maybe it's not going to be full. But in that time that we were waiting, it completely filled up. So that's something to think about is you might not have to go super early to snag a seat, but you do want to get there a little bit earlier just so you can get a seat. Now you can see the show from anywhere, but just so that you kind of get a fairly good seat. Now, one tip too, not only is there a lot of people that are coming in, so you want to be a little early, you want to keep in mind when you're leaving. Now, if you are planning to go back to your resort after the show is over, keep in mind that that's probably what everybody else in that auditorium is doing as well. It's outside amphitheater type or auditorium. That's probably what everybody else is doing. So keep that in mind. Either try to get out really, really, really quickly, or what is probably a better option is just kind of hang back. Don't be the first person out. When you get out of the amphitheater area, maybe just take your time going through the shops, looking around. This is where, if you found something earlier in the day, maybe this is the time to go back and purchase it, or take that second look at it, and just take your time getting out, because the Skyliner is going to be very busy. The buses are going to be very busy. You're going to wait a long time, and that's not where you want to do your waiting. So take your time getting out of the park, or try to be the very first person out, but then you might miss some of the show. So keep that in mind. Everybody else will be leaving too. Everybody else will be going to the different transportation options. So keep that in mind. That was the end of the day for us. And one thing also, we didn't have to wait too long for a bus, and there wasn't too many people waiting with us, but because it's the end of the evening, the buses will wait until they get full. So keep in mind, it might be a little bit slower getting back to your resort than if you went back during the middle of the day or something like that, because they will fill up the bus. At our bus, we were at standing room only by the time we left Hollywood Studios, but it was a quick trip back to Coronado Springs, and we were the first stop once we got there, so it went pretty quickly. Now, this is a video about Hollywood Studios without multi-pass. And after going through the day and the wait times that we had and the rides that we were able to ride and weren't able to ride, do I think that this is the best strategy for this park? On a day like today, or that day, where it was a little bit busier, not a crazy holiday time, but it was a busy day at the park, I would say no. Because we had longer wait times, we didn't get as many rides in as we could, or attractions or shows in as we could have had we used the multi-pass. For us, it was a lovely day. We got to ride some of our favorites. We got to see 2 shows that we really enjoy. So it was, and we got a break during the day and weren't out in the heat. We got rained on a little bit, but that's something that happens. So for us, it worked out. But if this were my one and only trip to Hollywood Studios, I would definitely get the multi-pass. Now, as far as Rise of the Resistance, you can purchase a single pass for that. And we have done that in the past, where we have just done that single pass for Rise and then didn't do multi-pass for the rest of the park. So that is an option. However, that was a much slower day. And to this day, that it was just too busy for that, especially for all of the attractions not being available first thing in the morning. So to do it all over again, I would have probably purchased the multi-pass. Hollywood Studios is definitely a good park for that because of how many attractions there are that are really heavy hitter attractions that are very popular. So the wait times will go up. So next time, definitely that multi-pass. But I know this can be very, very overwhelming, especially if you haven't done it before, or if you've done it before and it just wasn't your favorite thing. That's where we can help you out at Blue Coach Travel. Down in the description box below, like I said before, there is a link to a complimentary consultation where we will get to know each other either through a Zoom call or just a regular phone call, and we can help to make your vacation dreams come true. And don't forget, if you liked this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, have a fabulous day. Bye everyone.